What's up, guys? So I hope you all had a great time last Wednesday at PRYME. I know I had a ton of fun. So on Wednesday, we talked about our spiritual endurance and staying strong in following after God. And we did that based out of Hebrews 12 verses 1 to 3. Now, the beginning of Hebrews 12 verse 1 goes, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses." And as Pastor Joel has said, whenever you see the word therefore in the Bible, you should go back and take a look at what it's there for. So I wanted to jump back to Hebrews chapter 11 and talk about this great cloud of witnesses that can act as both cheerleaders and examples in our faith. Now, Hebrews chapter 11 is often called the Hall of Fame of Faith of the Bible, and it begins with these verses. "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. For by it the people of old received their commendation. By faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, so that what is seen was not made out of things that are visible." And then the chapter goes on to recount the stories of all sorts of famous people throughout the Old Testament. And it begins each story with the words, "by faith," and then describes the amazing things that God did through these faithful people. And what's interesting is that even though these people lived hundreds of years before Jesus, and most, if not all of them, at best had a very vague understanding of what he was going to do, the author of Hebrews describes them as looking forward to and working towards his coming. In particular, verse 26 says that Moses considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking forward to the reward. And even before that, the author of Hebrews briefly hits pause on the highway of heroes of faith and says this: "These people all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of the land from which they had gone out, they would have had the opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared for them a city." Now, thankfully, Christ has already come to earth, and so we already have the opportunity to receive free, full salvation from him. However, there is still an important way that these verses can apply to our lives. Now, I've heard many fellow Christians, especially missionaries, hear people say to them things like, "Do you really think you're making a difference? What impact is your work possibly going to have, or what's the point of doing what you're doing?" And even if there weren't people asking questions like this, it can be easy to get discouraged when we compare all that God has called us to our short lives and limited amounts of energy. But these verses show that in following the example of the heroes of faith of the past, we can have confidence in the fact that we're ultimately serving a purpose, and more importantly, a God greater than ourselves. The Apostle Paul actually 3 times, prayed for God to remove a thorn in his flesh that was weighing him down. And God replied, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." God will not only commend you for your faith, as Hebrews 11:2 says, but He will take the thread of your and other people's faithful lives and weave them into a beautiful tapestry beyond anything any of us could have ever imagined. So when you feel like you're not making a difference or that there's no point in serving God, take heart, desire a better country like verse 11:16 says, and remember that God can work through your offering of a faithful life to accomplish miracles. Have a great weekend, everyone. Grace and peace to you.